The storm over the Southern Ocean had not ceased for 9 days. Fierce winds tore at the hull of the ship like a living force, warning the intruders to turn back, but the crew, bound by secrecy and funded by a nameless benefactor, pressed forward into the frozen maw of Antarctica. They weren't scientists, at least not in the traditional sense. These men were trained in cryptography, archaeology, and something more, something occult. Among the crew was Dr. Marcus Vail, a disgraced historian from Oxford who had vanished from public life after claiming that Antarctica was once the seat of the original human civilization. His theories had been condemned as pseudoscience until a satellite anomaly in 2023 gave credence to his claims. A hexagonal pattern beneath the ice, stretching for over 40 kilometers, arranged with mathematical precision. When the icebreaker Aurelius made landfall on the Princess Elizabeth land sector, it was not to establish a base or plant a flag. Their mission was to locate a structure first reported in the 1938 Nazi expedition, but dismissed by modern records as fabrication. The structure, allegedly referred to as Der Tempel unter dem Eis, was said to contain inscriptions in a language older than Sumerian, and corridors too precise to be natural. By the 3rd day of their inland trek, the crew found themselves standing above a fissure. The wind blew up from the opening like a breath from something ancient. Drones sent below transmitted footage of an angular stone passageway with walls of obsidian black, unmarred by time or ice. Dr. Vail trembled as he reviewed the feed. "This isn't man-made," he whispered. "It's older than Homo sapiens." Descending into the fissure was not a choice. It was a compulsion. Every member of the expedition reported the same vivid dream on the same night, a blinding geometric sun rising over a white desert, and a voice without a tongue repeating a single word, asphodelos. No one knew its meaning, but all awoke with blood from their noses and a hunger to continue. As they entered the subterranean temple, torches flickered against walls carved with symbols that resembled both cuneiform and something reptilian. Dr. Vail deciphered fragments that spoke of the architects, beings who descended with the last eclipse and seeded the first tongue into the marrow of man. The deeper they went, the warmer the air became and the less the radios functioned. In one chamber they found skeletons, not human but humanoid, 7 to 9 feet tall, with elongated craniums and vestigial ridges along the spine. The bones were fused with what appeared to be metallic filaments. Vail's assistant fainted. "This isn't just prehistory," Vail murmured. "This rewrites the bloodline of civilization." But time began to distort. Watches no longer ticked uniformly. Crew members experienced hours-long blackouts, while others swore they had been only minutes apart. One man claimed to see stars moving beneath the stone floor. Another whispered of voices from the walls that sounded like crying metal. An underground amphitheater, discovered on the 9th day, held a monolith that pulsed with an unexplainable hum. Vail placed his hand upon it and collapsed, seizing violently. When he awoke, he spoke a single phrase in a tongue no one recognized. The linguist on the team, pale and sweating, later translated its root meaning. "We are the prison and the key." Above ground, storms of unnatural frequency began to converge around their location. Satellites lost contact. A Russian surveillance drone was intercepted and never returned. Strange auroras lit the skies in crimson spirals. Governments denied involvement, but encrypted transmissions picked up on shortwave suggested otherwise someone else knew, and they were coming. Beneath the amphitheater, a spiral staircase led them to a chamber with no discernible light source, yet everything was illuminated. In the center, suspended in air, rotated a tetrahedral artifact the size of a human torso, inscribed with constantly shifting runes. Vail called it the Axis Seed. He believed it was not a relic, but a mechanism. "It's a map," he whispered, "but not of space, of time." Vail hypothesized that the sea could align consciousness with non-linear time, but activating it would mean triggering something ancient, Perhaps protective or perhaps apocalyptic. The team fractured. Some wanted to leave and seal the chamber. Others, including Vale, insisted it was humanity's duty to learn the truth, regardless of cost. Then came the seismic tremors. Instruments exploded in confusion. Glacial walls began to crack from within. Something was moving, not toward them, but around them, like a predator encircling prey. Static over the radio formed discernible patterns, mimicking human speech but backwards, layered, as if 1,000 voices overlapped through water. A final transmission from a drone showed an immense structure buried beneath a collapsing glacier. A city of spires and concentric rings, lit from within. At its center pulsed a beacon of light that changed shape depending on where the observer stood. Vol called it the throne without a king. Now the team's numbers are dwindling. Some vanished without trace. One man was found standing motionless in front of the tetrahedron, eyes entirely black, whispering to someone who wasn't there. Dr. Vale refuses to leave. He believes they've only scratched the surface, and as the continent groans underfoot, he smiles. "We're not the first expedition," he says. "We're the first summon." The skies over Antarctica have shifted. A constant aurora pulses like a heartbeat. Submarines have been stationed in the Drake Passage under mysterious orders. All transmissions from the Aurelius have ceased. And deep beneath the blackened stone, the tetrahedron continues to rotate, faster, sharper, like a lock turning inward. And somewhere in the final chamber, something behind the walls has begun to knock. Slowly, rhythmically. Not as if seeking freedom, but responding to a call that came not from above, but from within us. It was never buried, it was waiting. Snow fell sideways, whipped into spirals by a wind that seemed to howl with purpose. The Aurelius was gone, vanished from radar, its last signal buried in a burst of electromagnetic distortion that disabled every satellite over the South Pole for 13 minutes. No official record acknowledged the ship's mission. But in the right circles, panic stirred. Antarctica had gone dark, and whatever lay beneath its ice was beginning to stir. Inside the subterranean city, later codenamed Station Zero, by surviving documents, Dr. Marcus Vale moved like a man under possession. The tetrahedron had stopped rotating and begun to pulse with low-frequency sound waves. It was no longer a relic, it was awake. Vale's journal, recovered weeks later by an unknown retrieval team, referenced harmonic intelligence, a resonance pattern that spoke directly to the nervous system, like a symphony composed for the soul. One by one, the remaining expedition members began to dream in synchrony. In their dreams, they floated above Antarctica, not the frozen wasteland of modern maps, but a lush continent of green valleys, megalithic towers, and twin suns. A voice whispered the word Ophir again and again. Vale recalled the ancient Hebrew legends of a lost land of gold, but in this place the gold wasn't metal, it was knowledge. And it had been buried. But not all were entranced. Martin Kepler, the expedition's technician and former intelligence agent, grew increasingly paranoid. He intercepted encrypted transmissions leaking from the site, bursts of binary code embedded in the static hum of the tetrahedron. He traced the source not to a satellite but to inside the Earth itself. "This place is not broadcasting," he told Vale. "It's receiving." In the city's second tier, they found what appeared to be a council chamber, 7 thrones made of a metallic mineral not found on Earth, each facing inward toward a black mirror set into the floor. The thrones were empty, but the mirror was not. When approached, it flickered to life, showing not reflections, but memories not their own. Images of hybrid beings walking alongside men, symbols in the sky that pulsed like heartbeat signals. A flood not of water, but of light. Dr. Vale grew gaunt and hollow-eyed, surviving without food or water. He believed the city was designed to reawaken human potential by reactivating something dormant in the genome. "They didn't build this for themselves," he muttered. "They built it for us, but only when we remembered who we are." He began drawing complex sigils into the frost-covered walls, glyphs no one else could understand, but everyone somehow feared. As they mapped deeper levels, they discovered bioorganic corridors, walls made not of stone but calcified tissue. Some were warm to the touch. The city wasn't abandoned. It was hibernating, and now it was beginning to thaw. Pulse-like vibrations echoed through the stone, matching the rhythm of human heartbeat. Lights flickered in tunnels that had never seen sun. Something vast was waking beneath them. They encountered strange flora in a sealed greenhouse chamber, fungi that glowed with bioluminescence, and spores that reacted to thoughts. When one crew member whispered the word asphogellus, the spores converged into the shape of an ancient glyph seen previously on the tetrahedron. The plants were not simply alive. They were responsive, integrated into the living architecture of the place. Then came the incident. During a solo descent into a lower chamber, Kepler's body cam went dark for 13 minutes. When he returned, he was covered in a slick, black ichor and unable to speak. His blood was no longer red, and his shadow moved before he did. The others locked him in the medical hold, but by morning he had vanished, leaving behind only his jacket and a whispering echo that persisted in the hallways. Satellite data recovered from the edges of the Antarctic ice sheet showed a strange phenomenon. The continent was growing, not with snow or ice, but landmass. A circular formation nearly 300 kilometers wide had risen 2 meters in elevation. It was as if the continent were breathing, exhaling something long suppressed. Global magnetic fields had begun to twist, drawing auroras over cities as far as Nairobi. Dr. Vale opened the black mirror, not physically, but metaphysically, by syncing his brainwaves to the city's resonance field using a crude EEG rig. What he saw nearly killed him. He described it as a recording of before time, an epoch when beings of pure consciousness crystallized thought into matter, creating temples that could speak, and pyramids that bent gravity like clay. But with each discovery came deterioration. Crew members aged rapidly. One man's fingernails grew 12 inches overnight. Another woman claimed her dreams were being infiltrated not by entities but by instructions. Vale wrote feverishly about the reassembly of the original signal and diagrams of a geometric language capable of reprogramming DNA. The final message intercepted from the base came from an encrypted channel tied to an unlisted U.S. satellite. The voice believed to be Vale spoke clearly in an ancient dialect of Akkadian known only to a handful of scholars. Translated, it read, "The gate has turned. The tide is no longer time but return. We are becoming again." Then, silence. No signal. No movement. Just a vast, pulsating silence across the continent. What followed was a global atmospheric anomaly, a spherical distortion seen from orbit, centered directly over the site. Planes refused to fly near it. Compasses failed. Something had been activated beneath the ice. And now, as an international task force gathers near the Ross Ice Shelf under the guise of seismic stability operations, reports leak of black pyramidal craft hovering miles above the ice, silent, unmoving, casting no shadow. Locals in southern Argentina claim to have seen figures walking across the sea, tall, featureless, cloaked in white mist. And deep beneath the earth, in the throne chamber of a city forgotten by all history, the tetrahedron no longer pulses. It now emits a tone, a perfect F, resonating across tectonic plates, uncoiling the memories of a species that has long forgotten its makers. The mirror is open. The breathing walls pulse in synchrony. Something is rising, not to conquer, but to complete. Dr. Vale stands at the edge of a chamber no human was meant to see, eyes reflecting a sun that hasn't shone in 1,000,000 years. whispering the final glyph of a language older than stars. The world you know was never yours. It was loaned, and the debt is due. Then, without sound, the floor beneath him begins to open. The chamber that opened beneath Dr. Vale did not descend. It expanded, as if the earth itself was unfolding, revealing a hollow hidden beneath the crust since before the Pleistocene. He stood at its edge, bathed in a faint auroral light that had no visible source. Below him lay an ocean, black, still, and unnaturally reflective. But what unsettled Vale most was its surface. It rippled upward. He stepped forward, drawn by something both ancient and intimate, a voice without sound that pulsed within the blood. Around the perimeter of the chasm, inscriptions lit one by one, activated not by touch, but by proximity. Each rune flared and hummed with a resonance felt in the spine. The language was unreadable, but unmistakably intentional. A warning or perhaps an invitation. Far above, the ice had ceased to fall. Instruments from the surveillance craft stationed outside recorded total magnetic inversion within a 9-kilometer radius. Gravity itself was warping, bending not downward, but inward. Time around the site distorted by seconds, then minutes. GPS failed entirely. Those observing from above described the region as a fixed tear in reality. Back within the ancient hall, Vale reached the shore of the inner sea. It was not water. It moved like thought, fluid, living, echoing his consciousness back to him with slight delay. He knelt and whispered into it. The surface shimmered, showing his reflection, but not him. A version of himself, older, crowned in shadow, eyes illuminated with glyphs, standing beside beings tall as obelisks, robed in mist. Suddenly a presence. Not footsteps, not breathing, but awareness. Something vast was now aware of his presence. Not watching, but remembering. Vale backed away slowly, yet the sea rose to meet him, lifting itself like a serpent uncoiling. From its surface emerged a spire, black as obsidian, humming with inner light. It bore a single mark, the eye within the triangle. Not just a symbol, a mechanism. In the outer tunnels, the remaining crew suffered visions. One man screamed endlessly until his vocal cords tore, claiming to see cities in the clouds above the sea, made of iron and sound. Another wept with joy, muttering that they're coming back to finish what they started. One woman tore pages from Vale's journal and consumed them, declaring the ink to be sacred code. They were unraveling, but not from madness, from contact. Far across the continent, seismic readings spiked violently, deep tremors not caused by tectonic plates, but by rhythmic pulses, like breathing from beneath. Naval vessels reported sonar contact with something massive moving under the ice shelf, silent, untraceable, and not made by any known propulsion system. One transmission simply stated, "It sees us." In the control room of a black site base in Queen Maud Land, unnamed officials argued over launch codes. A satellite view displayed a formation emerging through the ice, a perfect spiral of pillars, 144 in number, arranged in Fibonacci sequence across 17 kilometers. The AI mapping software refused to render it. Every attempt crashed the system. A warning blinked. Structure incompatible with Euclidean geometry. Vale stood now at the foot of the spire. The eye flickered, and then opened, not symbolically. It peeled back, revealing a vortex of shifting starlight and void. Inside, he saw civilizations collapsing in reverse, mountains folding inward, and a golden tree rising into the cosmos. He saw Earth not as it was, but as it had been. Twin moons, golden oceans, and beings of flame walking among crystal towers. The tetrahedron still above now emitted harmonic tones in precise intervals. Each tone activated a new sequence in the city. Vaults unsealed, corridors rewrote themselves, organic walls pulsed like lungs. The city was not a ruin, it was a seed, and Vale had triggered its germination. But what would it grow? A message appeared on the last functioning tablet, a phrase not typed but etched from within. No one had inputted it. It read, "You have 13 hours to ascend or be rewritten." What did it mean? Was it a countdown, an initiation, or a warning? The number matched the runes glowing around the central spire, 13 glyphs, 13 tones, 13 steps into the sea. Veil descended into the spire. It was warm inside, too warm. The walls shimmered with constellations that changed when he blinked. He reached a chamber at its center, shaped like a dome but impossibly vast. Stars spun within it, galaxies turning like gears. Suspended in the center was a sphere of translucent metal, orbiting nothing, emitting one constant sound. His name. Suddenly, static filled every remaining device. A voice, not human, not machine, whispered from every direction, "You were never meant to forget." Then it stopped. A moment later, a seismic blast registered 9.2 on the scale, originating directly beneath the spire. The Black Sea boiled, walls cracked, lights dimmed. But Veil did not flee. On the surface, satellites captured something rising through the clouds, not a ship, not a structure, a shape. Impossible to categorize, but symmetrical, emitting low-frequency light and a field that disrupted all quantum-based sensors. It left no shadow, it cast no reflection. It was described by one witness as a thought made visible. Inside the dome, Veil reached out and touched the sphere. Instantly he convulsed. His mind split not in pain, but expansion. He was everywhere, past, future, above, within. He saw the truth of Earth's history unfiltered. We were not the first, nor the second. We were the sixth. Each cycle had ended in ice. Each time a remnant had remained. But this time, the cycle had failed. And so the architects returned, not to build, but to reclaim. Veil now understood. Antarctica was never lost. It was hidden. Not to protect us, but to protect them from us, until the time came again, until someone spoke the word. Espedelos. The spire's walls peeled back like flower petals, the sea roared below, and high in the sky something began to fall, not from space, but from inside time itself. A spiral of fire, slow and soundless, descending toward the open wound at the bottom of the world. Veil turned, eyes aglow, and whispered, "They're here." When memory becomes flesh, the earth must choose what to keep and what to erase. The sphere opened, and the world began to change. The sphere opened like an eye, too ancient to blink, revealing an interior not of circuits or metal, but star matter, swirling, infinite, and alive. Within it burned a shape that could not be defined, only sensed, the sum of thought, memory, and loss. When Dr. Veil stepped into the light, he did not vanish. He fractured, scattered across 1,000 timelines like shards of a mirror dropped from the hand of God. Every screen on Earth that was still functioning flickered. Cameras in Tokyo, cell phones in Johannesburg, satellites above the equator, all momentarily transmitted the same image. A brief silhouette, tall and humanoid, outlined by rings of fire and water. No official report followed, but those who saw it forgot everything except that moment. And in their dreams it returned nightly. In Antarctica, the walls of the ancient city were no longer stone. They had become translucent, crystalline, vibrating with a symphony that no instrument could record, but every soul could feel. The remaining crew, what was left of them, fell to their knees. Some wept, others screamed, not in fear but in recognition. They knew now what this place was. They had not discovered it. They had returned to it. Above the chasm, the storm broke open like paper torn in slow motion. From within the swirling clouds descended an object, massive, silent, geometrically impossible. Its angles shifted mid-observation. Its color changed depending on who looked. Military satellites recorded it, but could not triangulate its dimensions. Every nation denied its presence, yet it hovered, undeniable. The object, named the descent vector in leaked intelligence cables, projected no beam, no weapon. It simply hovered and waited. Scientists tried to measure its mass, but their instruments refused to acknowledge it. Time around it was slow, elastic, and still, beneath the ice, the city pulsed faster. Something was synchronizing, aligning ancient frequencies across the biosphere. Veil, now existing between form and frequency, traveled corridors made of memory. He passed civilizations long erased from history, Atlantean spheres spinning beneath oceans, sky-faring kingdoms that mapped entire timelines. He saw the fall not as a war, but a choice. The architects, knowing the corruption of matter, sealed the records in Antarctica to delay what must eventually return. And he saw us. Humanity, patterned in their image, but incomplete. Our genetic code wasn't random, it was a lock. And the temple was the key. The symbols were not decoration, they were command lines, activating sectors of DNA long thought to be junk. But the signal was now activating. And with it the latent design encoded in every human soul. Then came the rupture. A deep percussive sound echoed from beneath the ice shelf, felt simultaneously across the Pacific and Indian plates. Not an explosion. A birth cry. Sensors worldwide went dead. Clocks stopped for exactly 13 seconds. Birds fell from the sky. Water turned black in rivers for hours. Something had shifted. Not just on Earth, but within it. At the center of the city, beneath the chamber of stars, a stairway opened downward, not mechanical, but willed into being. Those who remained followed it, drawn not by logic, but by the compulsion of fate. The air was thick with ozone and memory. They descended in silence, deeper than any man had gone. Not into the earth, but into the mind of the planet itself. They found a chamber not made of stone or metal, but of light frozen in form. It pulsed in rhythm with their hearts. In its center, the original codex. Not a book, but a sphere of symbols in perfect orbit, each glyph a memory, each turn a resurrection. Dr. Veil reached toward it, not with his hand but with his intention. The glyphs responded, forming a new shape. Outside, in the sky above the South Pole, the descent vector began to shift. Its geometry unraveled, revealing a second form beneath, an arc of sorts, shaped in impossible fractals, glowing with the light of extinct stars. It was not empty. From its sides extended beings of light and shadow, neither machine nor flesh, but a synthesis of will and form. They had arrived. On-board listening posts in the Arctic Circle, linguists working in total isolation intercepted a repeating transmission in Proto-Sumerian, repeated in a voice that had no known modulation. The seed has remembered. Commence reassembly. What reassembly? Of consciousness? Of history? Of the human race? No one could answer. But the countdown had already begun. Across the world, ancient megaliths began to hum, sites long forgotten activated by an unknown signal. The stones of Göbekli Tepe vibrated. The chambers beneath the Great Pyramid grew warm. The Nazca lines shimmered faintly beneath the sand. All across Earth, the old network lit again, like the veins of a long-dead titan resurrected by memory. Veil spoke at last, his voice layered, no longer singular. "The memory is too large for one mind," he said. "We are the vessels now." The crew behind him were no longer themselves. Their eyes held galaxies, their veins glowed faintly beneath the skin. The transformation had begun, not of body, but of function. They had become transmitters. And then the city exhaled. All at once, Antarctica split. Not violently, but gracefully, as though the ice had always been a mask, and beneath it stood the world's first temple. Stretching across the continent, its spires towering toward the stars, made of material that bent light and time. It rose as if waking from a million-year dream. Global instruments failed again, but not from failure, from overload. The frequency emanating from Antarctica now pulsed in exact harmony with the human brain's theta waves. Billions felt it. Some cried. Some collapsed. Others fell silent, eyes wide, as if they had heard a word spoken for the first time, the true name of mankind. But this was not the end. For beyond the ice, behind the temple's core, another chamber opened, a vault untouched even by the architects. Inside, a throne made of a single piece of white stone, older than the crust itself. Floating above it, a second tetrahedron, inverted, spinning rapidly. And behind it, something moved. The air thickened. Gravity folded inward. Time distorted so violently that a second stretched into eternity. Vale looked back at the others, then forward into the darkness beyond the throne. And from within, something opened its eyes. The one who remembers all is waking.